doing? Ready?
He was snapping on Play-Doh
All
all
right.
down there. And he
Finally, we're so excited we're back live again this festival. We've been out since 2019. Was our last festival. So we're so excited that you're here and that we're able to put this on, and we're having a great time this entire weekend. And it's just going to continue now. You can all read about Wycliffe if you don't already know him, so I'm just going to bring him onto the stage. Welcome to the stage, Wycliffe Gordon.
Hello. Good, great to see everyone. I'm not sure how many of you are here that were at the jam session last night. We had a great time and it was wonderful. But I'm going to jump right into my spiel. The name of my master class is, thank you very much. That's not the name of it. Sing It First. And it's just my approach to playing music in every aspect of music, from improvisation to working on pedagogy or anything. And my thought my belief is that if you can sing it, you can play it. And then so I'm going to demonstrate at any time you have any questions. And let's try to ask during this hour. Sometimes it happens. We'll have a student that they will say, they'll wait until after the master class and say, I have a question I want to ask you, but I didn't want to ask it in front of everyone else because it's a silly question, or I've heard it's a dumb question, it's a stupid question. There's no such thing, first of all. Everyone said there may be someone else that has that same question, and only questions that fall into those categories that you create in your mind are those that remain unanswered because you are afraid to ask. So ask here. And besides, when I leave, I'm probably going to go get a sandwich. And I really don't want to take up my sandwich time answering questions. So, but I am here for you. So if you have any questions, please ask. So, first, I'm going to warm up. I don't like to get to a gig or wherever and sit around for a couple hours practicing and warming up. And I'm not saying this is a bad habit of mine, so I'm admitting it. Don't warm up like this. I mean, take your time, but don't get me wrong. I spent many years working on everything from long tone exercises and lip flexibilities and all of that. But this is how I warm up now. I got here a few moments ago, and Dr. Irons said, you can warm up, so I'm not touching my horn until I get on the stage because I want to warm up in front of everyone and then go into what it is I'm going to talk about. So this is kind of how I warm up before a gig or whenever. As I said, that's a bad habit. Don't warm up that way. You know, not at your age. It's not a good way to warm up, but yeah, that's what I do. And I'll tell you why. Because I spend a lot of time singing. The name of this master class is Sing It First. And I'm not going to wait till the end to ask questions. I'll do like maybe a 15-minute spiel demonstrations on this. And then maybe we'll take some questions as we go along. I sing everything. The reason I warm up that way is because when I get up in the morning, I start singing. Music doesn't begin for me when I get to an instrument. It begins for me as soon as I'm conscious. I start singing. I rode with Mr. Brent on the way from the airport from Austin yesterday. And we were talking. I was in a conversation, but I was also working on and I was doing it silently, but in between listening to what he was saying, I was working on my doodle tonguing or double tonguing or working on phrases. So how do we work on that? We sing, and what I mean by that, if you can sing it, you can play it. Let's talk about pedagogy. For one, you want to work on some technique, sing it. Your double tongue. I sing it. It doesn't happen on the horn. The horn is just an extension of what our voices and who we are. You may believe that the instrument doesn't. So how did I work on that? I'll tell you. I sang and I did it into the mouthpiece, the connection to the horn. And I was about in college, about, I don't know, 18 or 19. And I was traveling from my hometown in Augusta, Georgia, to Tallahassee, Florida, where I went to school at Florida A&M University. That's about a 5.5 hour drive. But because I was 18 and 19, it only took 4 hours and 15 minutes. Which is not cool, it's not cool, I'm not saying it's cool to speed, but I did do it. All the way there, I just sang and buzzed into my mouthpiece. Sang and buzzed into my mouthpiece. So there's different variations on the double tongue with the consonant syllables that you're going to use. Ta, ka, or tuku. Or daga, do. And I was working on what I just did, the tuku syllable, but I was working on trying to get my dual tongue together. So I was going, and when I was working on it, I sang through all the vowel syllables, long and short. A, E, I, O, U, A, E, I, U, something like that. So I go, maybe like on B flat, and it doesn't really matter as long as you're comfortable, not straining to play in the upper register or trying to control it to play in the extreme lower register. So I just would do this. 2.5 hours. Only took 4 hours and 15 minutes. But I had some time. I sang it, then I did it in the mouthpiece. Sang it, did it in the mouthpiece. And in between, I ate nutritious and healthy food like vinegar and salt, potato chips, and Coke. But that's the thing, this is the connection. Sometimes you just have to practice away from your horn because your instrument, doesn't matter when instrument, string instrument, you percussion instrument, it can be a distraction. And normally I would ask why, but I'll just tell you why. Because what's the first thing we do? I'm going to start out by asking questions. And you don't have to come down to the mic. You can come down when we open up the floor for answering questions. But anyone want to guess why I'm saying maybe sometimes it's good to practice away from the instrument? Anyone? Yes? Yes. That was a good philosophical answer, not the one I was looking for, though. No, and don't get me wrong, you can't give a wrong answer in here because your perspective is yours. I'm just here with you to share mine. Whether you accept it, whether you employ it or not, that's up to you. But that was a really good answer. Why do I say practice away from the instrument? What do we do when I see your hand back there in the back, even if you can stand up and speak. What do we do when we get to our instruments? What is it that we do? Say it again. Yes. That's a good answer, not the one that I'm looking for. But in this, again, it's your perspective. Yes, over here. You noodle. Yeah, that's a good answer, not the one I'm looking for. So I'll take one more. Yes. That's a pretty good answer. And I know they want us to come down here and speak in the mics, but I'll kind of tell you what he said. Well, I'm not going to tell you what he said. It was a good answer, but not what I was looking for. So let me reframe the question. The reason we practice away from our instruments is because what do we do? What do we practice? What do we play when we get our instruments in hand? Have it hand back there in the back? Yes. That's a really good answer. Not what I'm looking for. No, so I'll tell you. The reason I say that, when we pick up our instrument to practice, most time we go to what we're familiar with, rather than getting right into addressing the thing. So, no, that's a really good answer. It was very close to what I'm talking about. So, I'll explain why. Practicing off the instrument or practicing away from the instrument, I say, I should have reframed the question, so I kind of set you guys up. But the thing is, you want to practice things that you need to deal with. If you don't know all 12 of your major scales, I mean, when you pick your horn up, you're going to play something that's familiar. And some of us get into the habit of practicing things that we can already do. We don't address. Like last night we were at the jam session, and we played a tune. Wasn't all the things you are. There will never be another you. And man, it went on for a while. So I wasn't going to play. I was like, I don't need to play. Everyone's played 35 choruses, and it was going on for a while. I said, oh, you know what? Let me make it interesting. I said, let's go up a whole set. We were playing in E flat, then we went in the F. Then the trumpet player came behind me, who's playing with us tonight. He played in G flat. I said, okay, we'll go up to G. And then A flat, and then A. And when we got to B flat, I said, okay, we're not going to go through all the 12 keys. But that's something that sometimes we don't challenge ourselves to do. So even in our practicing, we want to practice the things that we need to address. We kind of make a practice schedule. So let me get back on track. So singing, how many of you guys sing? Raise your hands. Okay. That's not enough hands. Everyone should. I don't mean that you sing in the choir, that you sing, arias or anything like that. That it doesn't matter what instrument you play. This is my point today. If you can play something, you can sing it. If you can sing something, you can play it. If you play something, you should be able to sing it. So. I sing. So by the time I get to my instrument, that's why I warm up the way I do, because music doesn't start for me. It's time to practice. Now it's time to start on the music. Music's kind of in my head all day. And like I said, if I'm in a conversation, I am listening. If I'm teaching a class, I do have a point and I'm focused. But when I say music is going on in my head all day, a lot of times I play all the brass instruments, and I may go down, and I may be sitting in the car and I play all the valve instruments. So I'm doing the fingering because I can walk around and do that. Because you can't see that. I'm in the car, my hands on my lap, I'm walking by my side. And there's a reason that I do that too. I'm primarily a trombone player, but I play the valve instruments, and the reason I do that is because I don't want to walk around like this. So if I walk around like that in public, people may think that I got out of somewhere. They're going to call somebody. So it's just easy. We go. So I sing everything. And how does this work? Well, whether you're working on an etude, if you want to work on your improvisation, and see, this is what I wish I knew when I was your age, then instead of, trying to listen to the cassette player, this was even before, they had, CDs and DVDs. But listen, I go back or something, I'm trying to figure it out. When all I had to do was sing it. I'll give you an example. I'm going to sing something, and I want all of you in here to sing it back. It's going to be like one or two bar phrases. I don't know. Just repeat what I do, like a call and response. 1, 2, 3. Boo-da-dum-doo-ring. Boo-da-dum-doo-ring. Soo-dee-doo-dee-doo. So we'll stop for a second, because I hear some of the guys, probably the fellas, or maybe it's lady basses, that are out there. I want you to sing in the octave I sing in, because I'm going to go high, and I'm going to go low. So normally I would tell the guys, say, hey, guys, because in the jazz band, everybody wants to be cool. And even this is what professional musicians as well. Sing, commit to singing. So, someone go, do. No, that's a pitch. That's down 2 octaves. Or do is down 1 octave. Sing in my octave. And it only works if you participate. And see, the thing is, don't say that you can't. I don't allow any of my students to ever use, that word or those words put together. I cannot. You can do anything. You don't learn to do things by simply not trying. So let's do this again and sing with me. 1, 2, 3. Soo-wee. 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 Hey, give yourselves a round of applause. That was actually really good. So I have a question for you. Because when we improvise, we're thinking about keys and scale and chord relationships. Key, scale, chord relationships. And 3 or 4 things before we make music. Who knows what key we were in? Raise your hands. What key we? B flat? Would you say B flat? That's your final answer? Cool. I was in B flat, but for everyone that didn't raise their hands, doesn't matter, right? I didn't have to think about position. What you did was you sang. And even if you didn't get all the notes, you pushed the air kind of through your body. So it's like, and if it's difficult to sing up there, that's cool. Just, and if it's difficult to sing, now ladies that may be challenging, but you never know. Because when I have ladies to sing, I'm like, oh man, I like that. When they get down, I said, man, that's my lady bassist, and I really dig it. But the thing is, you sing it, and you put the air through your body, because if you do it with your voice, then you won't be afraid to tackle it on your horn. The reason I asked what key we were in is because a lot of times we get caught up, let's play a blues in B flat, let's play a blues in E flat or F. Or what's your favorite key to play in? It's like, we're going to play in B flat or something. And it's not a matter of any key being hard, they all sound the same. All the scales sound the same. All major scales sound the same. All minor scales, sound the same. And so all songs sound the same no matter what key you do them in. So what you just did was kind of prove my point. If you can repeat something that you hear and you sing it first, which is the name of this class, that means if you sing it accurately and in tune, then that means that you've internalized it, which means then you can then teach yourself the music. It's good to know the key, but you don't have to. Everybody in here that sang, you made music with me without thinking about the key. So now I want you sang what I sang. Now I want you to sing what I play. And this is my point. So I'm gonna play something. Same thing. 1, 2. Great. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Now, again, I ask you, what key are we in? Who knows? Yes. You said F? I heard F and I heard A flat. Say it, which one? You said F first, but I wasn't A flat. Somebody said F over here. But my point is, it doesn't matter. You just made music with me, and what I was doing, I'm just improvising. And when I was your age, the thing, if I could go back and change that, I said I would do that. I would sing along with the recording first, because it's easy to listen. When you're trying to figure out positions, when you're trying to figure out fingerings on the trumpet or 22 keys in the saxophone, and you're not so familiar with your instrument, and you haven't put in a lot of time, and even if you have, it's a lot easier to just repeat what you hear. Just like what you just did. And if you can repeat that and listen to it, rather than just practicing it on your horn, which gets back to the answer that the young lady in the back gave, you can sing it, you listen to it over and over. Give me an example. How many of you guys like pop music? We all do. My pop music is probably a little different than the pop music you listen to today. But what part of the song do you learn first? The chorus, right? The chorus, is that what everyone said? And why is that? Oh yeah, I multitask, but I don't I can't do it with my hearing. I can hear like maybe 4 or 5 voices at a time, but 10, not one person. Raise your hand. Why is it? Yes. That's it. The chorus of the song. You go to it again. Give a round of applause. and most of us in here knew that. It goes around at least 2 or 3 times when you listen to the song once. In jazz, that doesn't really happen. The chorus, you have a verse, and the chorus is the song that we like to play on. That's when we say, let's play the head, which means let's play the melody. The melody in most jazz tunes, popular jazz tunes or standards, is the melody. Or in our slang terms, hey, let's go to the head. You'll see some people say, go back, that means to the top. And so, in pop music, if you go to a pop music concert, and haven't been to one in many years, but the part of the song that everyone knows is that part of the song that in the song you listen to one time, you hear it 3 or 4 times. So imagine if you're trying to learn an orchestral excerpt or something that you're preparing for Allstate. And I imagine that a lot of, or anything that you're working on, if you don't have a recording of it, then you record yourself playing it, or get your teacher to play it for you. Listen to it. Don't fight through playing it. Listen to it. Then sing along with it. Then sing without the recording. And when you can sing it accurately and in tune, and that's in another key. But the first etude number 1 from Melodious Etudes, it's in the key of C, but I'm singing it in a different key. And see, the thing about when you're singing it, when you're singing and you're singing and you're singing, the key really doesn't matter as long as the pitches are relative to each other. See, what you all just did when I was playing in E flat, if you picked up your horn or your instrument, you try to play and say, oh man, what fingering is that for the saxophone or the trumpet or the trombone or even at the piano? And I will say the piano is one of the greatest instruments, well, I say the greatest instrument to help develop your musical intelligence. That means your hearing and everything else. And this doesn't just apply to wind players. This is to percussion players. You're trying to work out a rhythm, sing the rhythm. Sometimes I try to do like a beatbox thing, like. Everything that I played, I try to sing it. But I sing it before I get to it on my axe, my trombone, that is. This thing that I did, you all said, you tried to imitate the sound. A lot of times I used to get this in workshops and master classes. How do you make that sound kind of simulating a didgeridoo? Well, now rather than waiting for the students to ask, I do what I just did. I play it and listen to you sing it. Some students want to know, how do you flutter tone? Rather than waiting for me to ask, I play it and then they do it. Students say, well, how do you flutter tone? Or they say, matter of fact, watch this. How many of you in here can double tone? Raise your hands. That's almost everyone, whether you're students or parents. Everyone in here can double tone. What sound does a train make? Everyone together, 1, 2, 3, train. Okay, good. No, that's cool. That happens. There's a whistle, choo-hoo, and then there's engine. You'll be amazed at how many students tell me I can't double tongue. I said, never say you can't. I bet I'll prove you wrong right now. Or they'll say, I can't sing high. I said, don't say you can't. You're younger than me. If I can go, I know you can. And I put them every time. What sound does a train make? The engine goes, that's double tonguing. And see, a lot of times we talk ourselves out of doing things we already know how to do. Can you sing? Yes. I asked that question, everyone should put their hands up. Can you double tongue? Yes, I asked that question, everyone should put their hands up. So you have to work to develop it. But you know, that didgeridoo sound or flutter tonguing. How do you flutter tongue? It's sing it. You sing it. You know how you imitate something? Just imitate something. I don't know how to double flutter tongue. A big wide flutter tongue. You know, and I used to love to try to just explore different things. If anyone ever told me you can't do something, it's like, yo, you can't do that on trombone. It's like, can't do it on trombone. Not true. You can do anything that you want to do. You can play anything you want to play. And if you sing it, it's kind of like one of my heroes, Muhammad Ali. What does he have to do with music? He sang his song. His song was, I'm the greatest of all times. And that was his song. But what happened? He became that. And the last thing I'll say before I start to take questions, one thing that I do, I have 3 or 4 trombones out at home, a sousaphone on the stand, an upright bass, a couple of keyboards, piano, and organ. I'll sit down to the piano first and work on, you know, my ear, and just start to play and sing things while trying to work out what I'm hearing in my head by playing this. I'll try to sing out, turn around. I sing a lot more than I play. So when I get to whatever instrument I'm playing, like on the trumpet, I'll try, and as it started out, I'm trying to sing the things that I play. Now I sing so much, now I'm trying to play the things that I sing. So anyway, maybe at this point we can take some questions. That's kind of my spiel, and it applies to any and everything. Etudes, orchestral excerpts. You know, you want to learn, when you're going to learn to internalize them, sing it. If you can sing it from memory accurately and in tune, that means you've internalized the music. Jazz, classical, or anything that has a melody. All right, do we have anyone that have any questions they'd like to ask? I think there are mics down here, so rather than answering or asking from your seats, please come down to one of the mics and ask away. Is everyone having fun here at the festival? Okay, cool. All right, our first question.
How you doing? That's not my question. I was wondering, you play in front of a lot of people all the time, and I was wondering if you get nervous and how you deal with that.
Thank you. I don't really get nervous that much anymore. There was a time when I did, because I always felt like people were, they were judging me, they're looking at me, they're listening to me. And now I understand, and I know that if you actually prepare, and if you kind of over-prepare, which there's really no such thing, you can overdo it. Like if you're practicing so much that your chops are hurting. And the thing is, the best thing to do is rest. I've had to tell students You're practicing too much. Rest. Now that doesn't rest from playing your horn on your face. Physically rest. Do something else. Write a tune or something like that. But so I don't really get nervous anymore. And that's a good question because I want to play something for you in the last 5 or 7 minutes before we before we end the class. You have to figure out why is it that you're playing music. My peers are listening to me, or my band director. Yeah, it's okay. You're in high school. Some of you may be in college, and we all go through that. I don't really get nervous anymore. But I remember I got to a point where I would never get really nervous on the road because I'm only going to be here for a night. So if I don't do so well, it's okay. I'm going to another city. Then I go to my hometown and I'm getting nervous playing in front of my family. And I was like, wow. Or if I'm learning a new piece. I'm most comfortable playing jazz. But once a friend of mine at the University of Scranton asked me to do a bass drum on concerto, I had 2 months. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Then I started working on it, and I was like, oh man, I practice. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 hours a day working on this concerto. But I realized that I'm most comfortable with the trombone, the tenor trombone that I'm playing, and bass trombone, first of all, that if you play bass trombone, that's just, it's not really in the trombone family. No, it's a compliment. No, I'm just saying, bass trombone is an instrument on its own. I'm not picking at the bass trombone players. I'm saying I play with tuba. It's much less difficult for me to play tuba than bass trombone. Trombone is a monster of an instrument to learn to master because, and not that any of the others are easier to play, but I'm just talking about the range of motion. You know, trumpet, you got 22 keys on a saxophone. You don't practice, you're not going to do it. But the range of motion on the trombone from position 1 to 7, all of us trombone players, bass, tenor, we have to have that in common. But it's a wide range of motion. So anyway, sorry, I know I went into a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't really get nervous anymore, but I'll share something with everyone in the room that I want you to listen to, and I'll pull it up on my phone. There's somebody talking about Louis Armstrong, and it really made me think because that question was asked and to me, but then also to a medical professional at the University of Scranton. And then a lot of times, like when you say, I can't double tongue or I can't sing high, it's like, no, you're just telling yourself that. When you use the word can't, you defeat the purpose of even trying. So anyway, thanks for the question. Next question.
When you're practicing music that's extremely hard, when do you decide to stop practicing?
Good question. I stop when I get tired. But first of all, I want to share something with you. No, there is not any piece of music that's hard. You know how when this is a jazz camp, a lot of times it's like, man, it's hard to play in that key. There's no such thing as hard. There's familiar and less familiar. So if something is difficult, as I was sharing with a friend, someone I was talking to last night, you just have to kind of get your stuff together. When I first joined Wynton Marsalis's band as the seventh member when it became the septet, I was happy to be chosen. But when I heard them play, I was like, wow, I have to get my trombone playing together. There was not another trombone player in the band for me to compare myself to. But I could compare myself to them musically and the level of musicianship that they had. So I had to practice. It wasn't hard, it was difficult because I had to put in the work. So there's nothing that's really hard about music. If it has something to do with your range, well, you have to practice, develop your range. You know, if it's about playing in keys, well, practice in those keys. How many of y'all with jazz camp? Who knows the song Giant Steps? Great. Is that a hard song? Anyone? Yes? Okay. Just shout out. You don't have to come down to the mic. Why is it hard? Difficult? Raise your hand. Yes, why? It goes through so many different chords. There's only 12 notes in music, in Western music, but there's not many notes. That's not a lot of notes. But I understand what you're saying. Anyone else? Why is it difficult? Yes.
The relationship between the keys is
He said the relationship between the keys, it can be, but that goes against what I just said. If you know all your major scales and minor scales, it's John Coltrane is a slick way of doing 2-5-1s. And I'll demonstrate that at the piano. Who else? Why is Giant Steps such a difficult tune? Anyone? Or if you did, yes, back here.
I mean, it's in like 13/8, so that's already something.
It's in 13/8.
1, 2. I mean, isn't it in a key?
Giant Steps, I think you're talking about another Giant Steps. I'm talking about the one by John Coltrane. Song in 13/8 may be difficult, but even you can count to 13. 13/8 is not that difficult. But Giant Steps I'm talking about is not in 13/8. I'll tell you something someone else said. They said it's fast. Look, we're musicians. We wake up trying to solve problems and issues with music on a daily basis. The first comment is usually, it's so fast. No song is fast. Every song is a ballad. Every song is and when I say ballad, it's a slow tempo. John Coltrane practiced 11, 12 hours a day. So, of course, for him it's going to be easy. He fooled us. He tricked us. Giant Steps is not fast. It's only 3 key centers in the song. It's only 3. So, there's, 4 keys you can play it, and you just do a little math. It's not fast. Why? Because you slow it down. I'm going to demonstrate at the piano on Giant Steps. Who in here, by show of hand, knows the tune Giant Steps? Great. Who knows the melody? The first 4 notes of the song make up what kind of chord?
G major 7.
It is G major 7. So, go back to what I've been saying, because a lot of times we work everything out on our instruments, develop the muscle memory in this tune. But if you can sing it, it means you've internalized it. So, that's the song, but it's not fast. Watch. This is still Giant Steps. So if you can learn dee-da, hey, if you can sing that, you slow it down and you turn it into a groove. It's like that's still Giant Steps. But if you're trying to do John Coltrane, if you're trying to do it that way, you're doing yourself a disservice. So slow it down. And the answer is, it's not difficult. You just have to break it down. The young lady that asked the question, if you're working on something hard, nothing in music is hard. Do it slow. Practice it slow. If you have to work on your range, well, get to working. Yeah, up range, low range. Yes, here, then here. Yes.
Who was your greatest inspiration?
Louis Armstrong. My greatest inspiration. Louis Armstrong. You may ask, I'm a trombone player, why? That was what brought me into jazz. Popular music for us. All the kids love the popular music. Why? That's what they call it, popular music. It's popular. It's pop. Was Cool in the Game, Parliament Funkadelic. Kids was a popular rock group. Chicago, and before my time, but I heard on the radio, groups like Bread that had bands. So, but I got a chance to hear a Louis Armstrong recording, and it's like, wow, that sounds like the instrument I play. We were all into the pop music, but it was acoustic music, and the trombone players that played with Louis Armstrong. I have many musicians that I'm inspired by, but what Louis Armstrong did as a musician and as I got older, to find out what he stood for as a humanitarian. You know, I don't think no one said you had to listen to this. A record collection wound up at our house from a great aunt when she passed. And I was very fortunate when I look back over my life how music kind of came to me, and particularly the music of Louis Armstrong. So, yes.
At what point did you know you wanted to pursue music?
At what point did I know? Well, I didn't. When I was in first grade, my dad played classical and studied classical piano, but he played in church. And when I was in first grade, I heard a live band for the first time, the Army band that come to our elementary school. And they played something, I was like, man, wow, that's nice. I heard a marching band outside. Then they demonstrated saxophone, I'm like, okay, cool. Trombone, yeah, trumpet. I was like, yeah, Dad, that's the instrument that blew down the walls of Jericho. Because, you know, I had that in church. My dad played in church. Piano playing, I was like, that's good. I heard that all my life, Moonlight Sonata, and he loved Beethoven and Chopin. And then the bass player played the electric bass. I was like, oh man, I like that. Then the drummer played. Like, I was like, oh wow, I want to play the drums. But I went home, my parents said, absolutely not. You already know you make too much noise as it is. So, what was your question again?
When in your life, like, did you know you wanted to be a musician?
Well, I was always around music. And whether you all know it or not, even though we have television and 800 million channels now, there was a time here in the United States before they had television or radio. And most households had a piano. Folks would entertain themselves. They learned to sing. Most households, I think it was like 90 or 93%, 91, it was an even number I read somewhere. And again, some statistics, it could be off by a few, but most households in America, and it wasn't, of course, it wasn't the style we had, a box piano. And people, before the invention of the radio, families had bands. Families made music. That's why when you say, can you sing, it's like, categorization of music has really messed things up a lot. But everyone has the ability to make music. And then when I was in 8th grade, was my last year of the junior high school, and then they started middle school in my city, in Augusta, Georgia, and we had a concert. And a friend of mine named Brian that played trumpet, I played trombone, we had a solo. We always played written solos, because I didn't grow up in a town or a city where you could study jazz improvisation. But we made a bet. I said, I'm gonna play half of my written solo. It's a 32 bars song. We both had 16 bars apiece. I said, I'm gonna play my first 8 bars, and I'm gonna make up the rest. He said, I'm gonna do the same thing. And with a little bit of success, it probably didn't sound great, but I remember the feeling of success, just trying to. And that was the first time that I said, I think I want to be a professional musician. I knew that I wanted to do this, that I love sports, of course. I grew up in the country. I remember watching boxing, football, and all of that, but something about music always stuck with me. And there were different stages. I was 8th grade, went to high school, started doing the all-county band, the 10th district band, the all-state band, then I made the McDonald's All-American band. I'm like, man, music is it. So it was always a part of me, and I'm glad. And you know, and I'll say to all of you in here, whether you decide to go into music or not, this experience at this camp and other experiences that you are going to have at this festival, rather, you're never going to forget it, because it's something about making music that it makes us deal with our common denominator as human beings, which is why I love Louis Armstrong. Duke Ellington paid him one of the greatest compliments. He said, Louis came from nothing, had nothing in the world, gained everything. You know, he made a lot of money, became an ambassador for jazz around the world, and even though he had some issues with racism, in the racism that he dealt with, and we still deal with it today, but he loved everybody. And I was like, man, how can you show hate for someone that just loves everybody? And Louis would say, he said, what do you think about people that say this about you? What do you think about people that say this about you? He He says, okay, they're just not hip yet. They just don't know. Everybody, love for everybody. So anyway, next question. Thank you for the question.
I just gotta know what your favorite standard is.
My favorite standard, I don't really have one. I'm mostly known as a jazz musician, but having grown up in church, gospel music is, spiritual music, because of the way I felt when I was growing up in it, is largely a part of how I express myself playing. So it doesn't matter, we're playing jazz or whatever. I don't know, if I had to pick a song, it would be very difficult. But when I was on the road with Winston, we were on the road 275, 300 days a year. And that's a lot back then when the septet was together. The music that kind of kept me in the center. We played a lot of jazz, and I love jazz, but it was gospel music. So oftentimes we get on the bus. There's 2 lounges on the bus, and West, the band, they'd be up there listening to like bebop. I go to the back of the bus. I put on, like James Cleveland, the Georgia Mass Choir, the Florida Mass Choir, and I was just like, and I'd be riding, and I would never, still a jazz musician, but the music that kept me in the center of myself was gospel music. So if I had to choose one, it would be difficult, but maybe today, maybe Amazing Grace, because of what the song means, or He Looked Beyond My Fault, and I'll tell you why. It's based on a tune called Londonderry here, or a tune from County Derry, and how someone in my church, when I started playing trombone, it was one of the songs that when I could play an octave and a half, and I learned it's a beautiful melody. And anyway, then I heard someone singing it in my church, and words written by Dottie Rambo. So let's just say that's my favorite song. He Looked Beyond My Fault. It references Amazing Grace, which is another great song for other reasons. And someone started singing, I started weeping. And so let's just say that would be it. I just got the 5-minute warning, so next question.
Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? Life, being here inspires me. Of course, my parents and a lot of great heroes, but we can talk about people that have done things and that are no longer here, but it's time, I think, that we begin to inspire each other. Musicians. I always have a story, and I'm going to cut it short because we're going to have to, but we were in South America somewhere, and none of us could speak the language, and they had a translator, and they took us to a place where musicians were playing. They couldn't speak any English. We sat down to eat, and one of the greatest compliments was they began to play music that we had just recorded. It wasn't released. And man, we walked up to those musicians, and it was just like, we hugged them. It's like the language was a barrier, words, but music is never that barrier. So when I say to you that you're going to remember this, whether you go into music, whether you become, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, the fact that you spent your time learning to do what we do as musicians, and you've had that opportunity, you're going to want to carry that over into many other things. This question here quickly, and I'll give a quick answer, yes.
Throughout your career, how have you grown more confident as a singer despite starting as a brass player?
Just doing it, singing. And I'm not really that confident as a singer. I want to sing the things I'm comfortable singing. I wouldn't get up here and try to croon. I do that at home, but I wouldn't put that on you. And it may actually sound good. And it wasn't until I actually started singing, sing it first. The master class, if you sing, your playing is going to get better. You're playing because the techniques that you use to sing, how you breathe. When it gave me like, hey! That air, a lot of times I wind up talking with students about they don't breathe properly, don't take in enough air. It takes more air to play with control softly than it does to play loud. So I just did it, yes.
Why do you play?
Say it again?
Why do you play?
Why do I play? For me, it's kind of like a lifeline. Music that story I just told you, music touches people when words can't. Like if I could, right now, and I say this about any and every war before now and now, drop a boom box with jazz playing on it out into wherever they're fighting, I think people would put their guns down. Louis Armstrong back in 1956 or 57 dedicated a song by Fats Waller, Black and Blue, to the Prime Minister in Ghana, West Africa. There's 100,000 people at that concert and only separated by 5-10 feet of rope, 50,000 on this side, 50,000 on that side, who weeks before were at war and they called a truce to attend the concert. And that says something about the power of the music, particularly of Louis Armstrong during that time. And it's still on the internet if you want to watch it. They don't talk about that, but I read the history and that's what it's about. Music is powerful. And last thing, I saw it happen with me, being in Germany. When the wall that stood between East and West Berlin was there, the people in that town, we were there 3 or 4 days, they looked at me like they wish I didn't exist. Coming from America, I thought it was because my skin was brown. I later found that it was just because I'm American. We just had issues. People didn't dig whatever it was that we were doing in the world. But going to Checkpoint Charlie and seeing the wall and the people on the other side of that wall were relatives. And then I was like, wow, man, if looks could kill, I wouldn't be here. 3 nights later, we played a concert in the square. This was the people that worked in the hotel, and we're guests in the hotel, and in the square. And then we were playing the concert, and just like you all down here, I'm playing, and I like to memorize my music, so I got a chance to look out in the audience. Some of those same people that thought, they look at me like, oh man, I wish you exist, vanish. They're smiling, they're singing, and they're dancing. I was like, wow. I was confused until 15, 20 years later, I'm teaching a class like this, talking to students like this, and I'm like, wow, that story with Louis Armstrong, I got a chance to witness that for myself. The music wiped whatever it was in their existence away, and they became a part of, I'll just say, a love fest. And I was like, that's why I play music. The music that we play on stage goes far beyond the notes, the licks. Yeah, we want to get all of that. But we have a service, and that's why I say, whether they're warring, whether they have guns shooting, trying to kill people, get a big giant boom box, play some jazz, drop it out there amongst them. I bet they put their guns down, their weapons down. Okay, I can take another quick question because I have to stop. And I'll give you the reference of what to listen to. I won't play it, but right here it is.
Now, what challenges did you face being a trombone player, musician, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Hey, come back. What challenges did I face?
Or what challenges have you faced over the years of becoming a musician?
Just being on the road, it's hard, like most recently. I was talking about the war. It's still going on. That's hard for me. To see anybody, I don't know your name, but you got a nice suit on, so I'm saying like this. This is the equivalent to that. At your house, you have a really nice house, and you have some things in it that I want, and I want you to give it to me. But if you don't, I'm going to take it. And at the expense of killing you, I'm going to do that. That's what's going on in the war, many wars, in any war. So the challenge for me is now to not just entertain, but to make people conscious. What happened recently on the Oscars, it was kind of funny when I saw it at first, but I was on the plane, flying here yesterday, and I wept a little bit. I was like, I feel so sorry that 2 of our stars at the top of their game, that it resulted in that in America today. So for me, the hard thing for me, the thing that I want to do is never about just entertaining and the applause. I appreciate it, I love it, but how can we do what music does? The band is only successful not when your lead trumpet player is playing this when the second or third trombone player is, everybody gets to play a part, and that's what a community is. So, last question.
How would you recommend a beginner learn to improv?
How would I recommend a beginner learn to improv? It's easy. They say the good ones borrow, the great ones steal. Listen to recordings. What do you play? I'll tell you what that means. What do you play?
Trombone.
Yeah, trombone. check out some J.J. Johnson recordings or any trombonist that you like. You want to learn, good ones borrow. Okay, I listen to it, it's cool. Great ones steal it. Play what J.J. played. Sonny Rollins would be down at the Village Vanguard, what John Coltrane was playing. He wasn't just checking out the music, he was learning. He said, I'm gonna take what, when I listen to the band, I listen to everybody play. Tonight, I'm not ever in the band just waiting for my solo. I'm checking out what cats are playing. I'm like, oh, that's nice. So take that information, sing it, make it, and do it repetitively, and then you begin to develop vocabulary. You learn the J.J. Johnson solo. Everybody wants to play on the blues. Learn a few bars of a blues, learn a chorus, then 2 choruses. And before you know it, but as I said, sing it first. I kind of went over my time. But sing it and then play it. Don't try to figure it out on the trombone, because you can do, the hardest thing about practicing is finding time to practice. You got to get your horn out of the case, but you can sing anywhere. So you listen to something, sing it, and then when you get to your horn, just try to play what it is you sing, and you'll get it. I have something on my website called Sing It First, and it's what I use to talk with classically trained musicians, and all of us, to some degree, are classically trained musicians. But those that say, I don't improvise, everyone, and I mean everyone in this room, your level may be different, but everyone can improvise. You only can when you tell yourself you can. So, I'm gonna close now. Thank you for the question, and I'll say thank you for having me. Directors, teachers, parents, students. Everyone should do it on their own, but listen to, there's a something called Play for Someone You Love. I don't know if you heard this. But it's 7 minutes and 46 seconds of someone talking about a music lesson, that's something they learned about music with Louis Armstrong, because what we hear that we're competing, right? And oftentimes, and someone asks the question, what do I do when I get nervous? You play for someone you love. It's one of the greatest stories that I've heard, and I think it's Rich Madison talking about an opportunity that he got to play with Louis Armstrong. He tells the story in 7 minutes. It's one of the most beautiful stories about music or a musician, but it's about a human being, and if we can adapt that, it would be great. So, I'm Michael Gordon. Thank you very much.
Gordon. Make sure you come out tonight to hear him play with the Temple Jazz Orchestra. It'll be at 7:30 tonight. So, all right.